Have you ever found yourself staring at a single perfect bloom in a small clay pot, maybe a bright red geranium or a delicate petunia, and marveling at how much joy one little flower can hold? It really is a wonder. But then perhaps you look up. You look at your small patio or that narrow strip of backyard that seems to have gotten smaller over the years, and a heavy thought crosses your mind. You think, my gardening days are shrinking along with my space. I know that feeling. It's a common worry. I was speaking with my friend Martha just the other day, looking at her balcony, and she said she felt like she needed acres of land and the boundless energy of a 20-year-old to create a true paradise. But what if I told you that she was wrong? What if I told you that the most beautiful, manageable, and lush gardens actually happen in the smallest, quietest corners? Think about it. A small garden is like a jewel box. It wraps its arms around you. It doesn't demand that you spend your entire Saturday weeding until your knees ache. It invites you to sit down with a cup of tea and just breathe. Today, I'm going to show you 10 simple landscaping hacks that turn those tiny overlooked spaces into lush sanctuaries. And the best part? We are going to do it without breaking your back or your budget. By the time we are done, you'll have a space so cozy and vibrant that your neighbors might just peek over the fence, feeling a little jealous of your secret retreat. It is wonderful to have you here with me today. Welcome back to Golden Garden Wisdom. I'm your host, and if you are new here, you should know that in this corner of the internet, we believe that gardening is good for the soul, no matter your age or the size of your plot. We take things slow here. We appreciate the smell of damp earth and the miracle of a sprouting seed. So pull up a comfortable chair. If you enjoy slowing down and watching things grow, if you want to keep your hands in the dirt without the stress, please go ahead and click that little subscribe button and ring the bell. It's our way of staying in touch, joining a community of wise gardeners who know that the best things in life often come in small packages. Are you ready to reimagine your space? Let's begin. Let's start with our very first secret, something I like to call the Skyward Strategy. You know, when we look at our gardens, we have a habit of only looking down. We look at the grass, the pavers, the soil at our feet, and naturally, in a small space, you run out of that floor pretty quickly. It can feel a bit discouraging, like running out of canvas before you've finished your painting. But here is the trick. When you can't build out, you build up. Vertical gardening is not just a trendy phrase, it is a lifesaver, especially for those of us who might feel a twinge in the lower back when the weather turns rainier. The absolute best part about gardening up? No bending over. Your back will thank you, and honestly, so will your knees. Instead of crouching down to admire a bloom, you bring the garden right up to eye level, where you can smell the fragrance without any effort at all. You can do this so simply. You don't need a construction crew. You might use a simple wooden trellis leaned against a fence, or perhaps some wall pockets that hang just like a shoe organizer. But for petunias, my personal favorite is the shepherd's hook. You've seen them. They are those elegant curved metal stakes you just push into the ground, or a heavy pot. You hang a basket on it, and suddenly you have color floating in the air. Imagine planting a climbing rose or a deep purple clematis. My friend Gerald did this on his tiny apartment balcony. He let a clematis climb up a simple lattice screen he bought at the hardware store, and now when he sits out there with his morning coffee, he feels like he's sitting in an English cottage garden. It creates a wall of living color that wraps around you, making the space feel private and cozy rather than small and cramped. Now let's move on to our second landscaping hack, which is a bit of a magician's secret. I call this the mirror illusion. This is perfect for when you want your garden to feel twice as big as it actually is, instantly. It is an old parlor trick, really. Do you remember how your mother or grandmother used to hang a mirror in a narrow hallway or a small dining room? It was there to catch the light and trick the eye into thinking the room went on forever. Well, we can do the exact same thing outside. By placing an old mirror on a fence or a garden wall, you reflect the greenery you already have. It creates a window into a garden that doesn't exist, giving the illusion of depth and abundance. Now, I have to pause here for a very important safety tip, because we love our feathered friends in this community. You have to be careful with mirrors, because we don't want birds thinking it's open sky and flying into it. I always recommend placing a bit of wooden lattice over the mirror, or perhaps using a mirror that has that antique finish, where the glass looks a bit cloudy or speckled. It looks charming and rustic, and it keeps the birds safe. When you do this right, the effect is stunning. You place the mirror behind a pot of ferns or hydrangeas, and suddenly it looks like you have twice as many plants. It reflects the sunlight into dark corners, brightening up shady spots. My neighbor down the street has a weathered mirror tucked behind her hydrangeas, and every time I walk by, I have to do a double take. It looks like a secret portal to another world. It's a simple touch, but it adds so much mystery and light to a small space. Now let's turn our attention to the patio floor for a moment. If you are anything like me, you have probably collected quite a few pots over the years. You pick up a lovely terracotta pot at a yard sale, or maybe receive a colorful ceramic one for a birthday. Before you know it, you have these little islands of green scattered all over the place. One by the back door, one by the chair, two over by the hose. While we love every single one of them, sometimes having them scattered about can make a small space feel a bit busy. It can look a little cluttered, even if the flowers themselves are beautiful. So this brings us to our third landscaping hack. which I like to call the container colony. The secret here is simple, but it changes everything. Grouping. Instead of letting your pots stand alone, bring them together. And here is the golden rule of design that artists have used for centuries. Group them in odd numbers. Try a cluster of 3, or maybe a group of 5. There is something about odd numbers that is just naturally pleasing to the human eye. It feels balanced without being rigid. When you arrange them, you want to create layers. You place your tallest pot, or the one with the tallest plant, perhaps a majestic fern, or a tall ornamental grass, right in the back. Then you place a medium-sized bushy plant in the middle. Finally, right in the front, you place a smaller pot with something that trails over the edge, like ivy or creeping jenny. Think of it exactly like posing for a family photo. You know how we do it. You put the tall grandchildren in the back, the parents in the middle, and you have the little ones sit right in the front so everyone gets seen and no one is hiding behind Uncle Bob. It's the exact same principle for your plants. By arranging them this way, you create a lush mound of greenery that looks like a deliberate designed garden bed, rather than just a collection of pots. To really make this look professional, and to keep things looking calm and serene, try to keep your pots in the same color family. Imagine a cluster of 3 pots that are all warm, earthy terracotta. Or perhaps you prefer that deep ocean blue glaze. When the pots match, your eye isn't distracted by all the different containers. Instead, your eye relaxes, and you focus entirely on the beautiful textures of the leaves and the bright colors of the blooms. I saw a wonderful example of this just last week. My neighbor, a lovely gentleman named Arthur, had a small corner of his deck that was just gathering dust. He took 3 simple clay pots, 1 tall, 2 smaller, and planted them with marigolds and sweet potato vine. Grouped together in the corner, they looked grand, like a deliberate focal point. It turned a nothing space into a something space instantly. Plus, here is a practical bonus for us. When the pots are grouped together, they shelter each other from the wind and hold moisture better, and you only have to walk to one spot to water them all. It saves time, saves water, and looks absolutely top-notch. This brings us to one of my absolute favorite strategies, and it's a bit of a rebellion against the old rules. We call this Hack 4, the edible ornamental switch. For decades, we were told that the vegetable garden belongs in the backyard, hidden away in straight military rows, far from the pretty flower beds in the front. But why? Why separate the useful from the beautiful when they can be both? If you have a small space, you don't need a separate vegetable patch that takes up precious square footage. You just need to change how you see your vegetables. The hack is simple. Mix your vegetables right in with your flowers. Treat a head of lettuce just like you would a hosta. Treat a pepper plant just like a specialized shrub. Have you ever really looked at a stalk of bright light Swiss chard? It is positively stunning. The stems glow in neon pinks, sunny yellows, and ruby reds. It's as vibrant as any flower I've ever seen. Imagine planting that Swiss chard right next to your bright orange marigolds. The contrast is breathtaking. Or consider purple kale. With its ruffled deep violet leaves, it looks just like an exotic plant you'd pay a fortune for at a nursery, yet it costs pennies to grow from seed. When you tuck these edibles in among your petunias or your snapdragons, you maximize every inch of soil. It looks lush and full, not sparse like a traditional vegetable row. And let's be honest, there is a wonderful practical benefit for us too. It keeps the grocery bill down. There is nothing quite like stepping out your back door with a pair of scissors, snipping a few leaves of fresh chard or kale for your dinner, and walking back inside all within 5 minutes. You get the freshest greens possible, just a few steps from the kitchen, and your garden looks like a designer showpiece. My neighbor Helen has a border of curly parsley lining her flower bed, and most people think it's a fancy fern until she tells them it's for the potatoes. Now let's talk about comfort. As much as we love the soil, there comes a time when getting down on our knees and, more importantly, getting back up again isn't as easy as it used to be. That is simply a fact of life, but it doesn't mean we have to stop gardening. It just means we change the altitude. This is Hack 5, elevated ambience. We are talking about raised beds, but not just the ones on the ground. I'm talking about waist-high, elevated planter boxes or troughs. These are absolute game changers. Accessibility is the key to longevity in the garden. If you make it easy to reach, you will do it more often, and you will enjoy it more. I want you to picture a beautiful cedar standing planter. The wood is warm and fragrant, turning a soft silver gray as it ages. It stands on 4 sturdy legs, bringing the soil right up to your waist. Think about the empowerment in that. You don't have to get down on your knees anymore if you don't want to. You are bringing the ground up to you. You can stand straight, with your shoulders back and your head up. Imagine this morning ritual. You walk out with your hot cup of coffee in one hand. You walk over to your standing planter. You see a little weed trying to make a home next to your basil. You simply reach out, pluck it, and toss it aside, all while taking a sip of your coffee. No bending, no groaning, no sore knees later in the day. It turns gardening from a chore into a gentle morning stretch. My friend Tom built one of these for his wife last spring, and she says it's her favorite piece of furniture in the whole house, even though it's outside. It allows her to putter around for hours without a single ache. It's a kind way to treat your body, and it keeps the joy of growing alive and well. Now let's take a look at the ground beneath our feet again. But this time let's talk about how we move through our garden. This is hack 6, and I call it the curved path mystery. You see, when you have a small backyard, the instinct is often to make everything straight. We pour a straight concrete walkway, or lay stepping stones in a direct line from point A to point B. It seems logical, doesn't it? But the problem with a straight line is that your eye shoots right to the end of it instantly. You stand at the back door, you see the back fence, and your brain immediately says, oh well, that's it. That's the whole yard. It reveals the limits of your space in a split second. But we can trick the eye. We can add a little bit of intrigue. The secret is to create a curved pathway using pavers or simple flat stepping stones. Even in the tiniest yard, a gentle curve creates a sense of mystery. As the path winds behind a bush or a cluster of pots, it hides the destination. Your mind starts to wonder, where does that go? It implies that there is more to see, creating a feeling of distance and depth that simply isn't there physically. You don't need a landscape architect for this. Here is a trick I've used for 40 years. Take your garden hose. Yes, just the regular green hose. Lay it out on the ground in a gentle S shape. Wiggle it around until the curve looks pleasing to you. Nice and lazy, nothing sharp. Once you have that shape, simply place your stones following the line of the hose. It guides you perfectly. And here is the finishing touch that makes it look professional. Let your plants spill over the edges just a little bit. Let the alyssum or the thyme creep onto the stones. It softens the hard edges and makes the path look like it has been there for a century. My friend Richard did this in his side yard, which is barely 6 feet wide. He put in a winding path, and now when you walk down it, you feel like you are taking a stroll through a secret English lane, rather than just walking alongside his garage. Now that we have our path, what are we going to plant along it? This leads us to hack 7, dwarf varieties, because in a small garden, scale is absolutely everything. We often make the mistake of buying the plants we remember from our childhood homes, huge weeping willows, massive lilac bushes, or giant oaks. But in a small space, a large tree can make things feel claustrophobic. It creates too much shade and eats up all the sky. Suddenly you feel like you are living in a cave. The horticultural world has given us a wonderful gift in recent years, dwarf or patio varieties. These are plants that have been bred to stay small and compact, yet they still give you the same fruit or flowers you love. Take the peony for instance. We all love them, but they can get huge and flop over in the rain. Have you heard of the patio peony? It stays short, sturdy, and upright, fitting perfectly into a small pot or a tight corner. Or look at dwarf hydrangeas, which give you those massive snowball blooms, but stay under 3 feet tall. You can even get columnar fruit trees, apple trees that grow straight up like a pillar, barely 2 feet wide, but loaded with full-sized fruit. I want you to remember this. Choosing a smaller plant doesn't mean you are getting less. It's the same beautiful bloom you remember from your mother's garden, the same sweet scent, just in a package that fits your life right now. It's about finding things that are polite guests in your garden, not house guests that take over the whole living room. Finally, let's move to hack 8, something that appeals to our ears as much as our eyes. I call this the sound of silence. One of the biggest complaints I hear about small-town gardens, or patio living, is the noise. You might hear the traffic down the road, or perhaps your neighbor's air conditioner humming, or even just the chatter from next door. It can break the spell of your sanctuary. The solution is water. Now, I am not talking about digging a massive hole for a koi pond. That is far too much work for us. I am talking about a small recirculating bubble fountain, or even a bird bath with a little solar bubbler in it. Water does 2 magical things. First, visually, standing water reflects the sky. When you look down into a bird bath, you see the clouds passing by, which makes the space feel open and airy. But more importantly, the sound of trickling water soothes the nerves. It creates a layer of white noise that gently masks the sounds of the neighborhood. It wraps you in a bubble of calm. And for those of us who aren't electricians, which I certainly am not, technology has made this so easy. You can buy solar-powered pumps now. You just set the little panel in the sun, drop the pump in the water, and away it goes. No wires, no digging trenches, no calling a handyman. Just the gentle sound of a babbling brook right on your patio. My neighbor down the street put a small glazed pot with a bubbler in the corner of her deck, and she told me that now, when she closes her eyes, she feels like she's sitting by a stream in the mountains, miles away from the city. As the sun begins to dip below the fence line, and the shadows stretch long across the patio, we come to our 9th secret. I call this layered lighting. You know, we put so much love into our gardens during the day, it seems a shame to let them disappear just because evening has arrived. But here's the thing, as our eyes get a little older, we don't want harsh, blinding floodlights. That stark white security light doesn't make a garden feel welcoming, it makes it feel like a parking lot. We need a soft, gentle glow. We want ambiance, not interrogation lighting. The hack here is to use what the younger generation calls fairy lights, though I just think of them as captured fireflies. These are simple strings of small, warm white lights. The best ones are solar-powered. You just clip a little square panel onto your fence where it catches the sun, and then as if by magic, they twinkle on automatically at dusk. Imagine wrapping a string of these lights around that trellis we talked about earlier, or draping them gently along the top of a fence. It creates a perimeter of warmth. I also love using those battery-operated LED candles inside old lanterns. You get that flickering romantic dance of light without having to worry about a flame or melting wax.
My sister-in-law, Betty, did this on her small porch. She strung lights right through the branches of her potted ficus tree. Now she sits out there every evening with her chamomile tea. She says it feels like sitting under a canopy of stars, even on a cloudy night. It turns a dark, empty space into a cozy, magical room perfect for evening reflection. And trust me, your neighbors will look over and wish they had a spot half as inviting to end their day. And finally, we arrive at our 10th and final landscaping hack, which is all about being clever with your gear. We call this furniture with a dual purpose. When you are working with a small space, whether it's a balcony, a courtyard, or a tiny patch of grass, every single inch counts. We cannot afford to have furniture that just sits there doing nothing. Every piece needs to earn its keep. The hack here is to choose furniture that works as hard as you do. I always recommend a sturdy storage bench. It looks like a charming wooden seat where you can rest your legs, but the seat lifts up to reveal a deep chest underneath. This is crucial for us, because we want to avoid clutter. You can tuck your trowels, your bags of potting soil, and that green garden hose right inside the bench. This isn't just about aesthetics, it is a safety issue. We want to keep the walkways clear. We don't want to be tripping over a rake handle or a coil of hose when we are carrying a watering can. My neighbor, a wonderful man named George, has a potting bench that I absolutely envy. During the week, he uses it to repot his geraniums. But on the weekend, he wipes it down, throws a nice tablecloth over it, and it becomes a buffet table for iced tea and sandwiches when his grandkids visit. It serves two completely different needs without taking up any extra room. Remember, a tidy garden always looks bigger than a messy one. When the tools are tucked away, and the surfaces are clear, the eye can travel freely, and the space feels open and serene. Well friends, we have covered a lot of ground today, even if that ground is just a few square feet. From looking skyward with trellises, to softening the edges with curved paths, and from the magic of mirrors to the comfort of raised beds. I hope you can see now that having a small garden isn't a limitation, it is an invitation. It is an invitation to focus on the details, to create a manageable sanctuary that brings you joy without breaking your back. You don't need acres to touch the earth. You just need a little creativity and the patience to let things grow. Before I let you go, I have a couple more secrets tucked up my sleeve. Little things that I like to call the wise gardener's secrets. These aren't just about design. They are about saving your energy, so you can actually enjoy the beauty you are creating. First, let's have an honest chat about watering. I remember the days of hauling around those heavy, thick, green rubber hoses. You know the ones I'm talking about. They weigh a ton. They kink up the moment you turn your back, and they seem to snag on every single corner of the patio. Honestly, by the time I was done watering, my wrists ached, and I felt like I had been wrestling an alligator. I decided I had to retire from that wrestling match years ago. My advice? Switch to a lightweight coil hose. They are fantastic. They look like a colorful spring, and they stretch out when you need them, and bounce right back into a tidy little pile when you are done. They weigh next to nothing. Or if you want to be even kinder to yourself, set up a simple drip irrigation system. It sounds technical, but it's just a small tube that weaves through your pots. You turn the spigot, and the water goes exactly where it's needed, at the roots, while you sit back and watch the butterflies. It turns a chore into a moment of rest. Second, think about the color of the ground beneath your feet. This is a trick I learned from a landscape painter. If you cover a small yard with dark mulch or dark gray slate, it absorbs the light. It pulls the walls in and makes the space feel tighter, almost like a cave. Instead, try using light-colored gravel, like a pea stone in a soft beige or a honey-colored paver. Light colors act like a reflector. They bounce the sunshine back up into the air, making everything feel airy, open, and bright. It's the difference between a dark basement and a sun-drenched beach. It instantly tricks the mind into feeling like there is more air to breathe. We have covered quite a journey together today, haven't we? We talked about looking up and using that vertical space with trellises to save your back. We discussed the magic of mirrors to double your view, and the importance of grouping your pots into cozy little colonies rather than scattering them about. We talked about bringing the soil up to your waist with elevated beds, planting delicious veggies right alongside your flowers, and adding that touch of mystery with a curved path. And of course, we can't forget the magic of lighting and the soothing sound of water to wash away the noise of the outside world. I want you to remember this. Your garden doesn't need to be big to be bountiful. A garden is not measured by acres, it is measured by the love you pour into it. Whether you have a sprawling lawn or just a single balcony railing with a few pots of basil and geraniums, it is your sanctuary. It is a place where life happens. Don't let the size of your space limit the size of your joy. So I have to ask, which of these little hacks are you going to try first? Are you going to hunt for an old mirror at the flea market this weekend? Or maybe you're eyeing a spot for a new climbing rose? Please let me know in the comments below. I sit down with my tea every morning and read every single one of them. Hearing about your gardens is the highlight of my day.